Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go. Welcome to the Scoop World Order Emergency Sunday Night Edition. Frankly, I was talking to Nevadabuck, and we were going over some of the Juwan Howard madness that has happened in Madison today after they lost to the Wisconsin Badgers. Looking pretty grim for Juwan Howard. I'm going to bring in my partner in crime, Nevadabuck. Nevada, pretty wild scene in Madison today. I'm sure you've seen some scuffles in your lifetime in sports, and this is an interesting one. Give me your initial thoughts on what Juwan Howard's facing and what Michigan's gonna have to do here to rectify this.
Well, I mean, people got to remember that with Juwan, he's a repeat offender. He's done this before. He had problems with the Maryland coach last year, and regardless of how he's going to try to spin this, oh, he put his hands on me. Oh, he called a timeout. Oh, he was mean, or whatever he's going to say. He threw a punch. And I think, whether it was a slap punch, whatever, I mean, he threw hands at another coach. And I think at a minimum, he's got to be suspended the rest of the year. I think if there's any justice, he'll be summarily dismissed. And I think that'll actually be the path that Michigan will take, because I think they're looking for excuses to get rid of him anyway. So it'd be such a Michigan thing to fire the guy. And I think he'll get fired.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. So we're actually gonna take this into the film. See if I can get this dialed up, because this is some wild stuff here with Juwan. And again, as you mentioned, he is a repeat offender. He is a guy that he's been doing this for a minute, and it's something where it's gonna be real interesting to see how this comes to be. Do you think that there's any chance that he survives this?
Look, you never say never, but I'm not sure how you maintain control of the program. I mean, do you remember when Woody threw that half-hearted punch at Charlie Bauman back in '78, and he was out by that evening? I mean, that was kind of pathetic, but it happened. I mean, Juwan Howard just threw a punch at an opposing coach. And I just don't see how in the year 2022 that you can survive that. But it's Michigan, so anything is possible. They might give him a raise. They may extend him. Who the heck knows?
Yeah, in your lifetime, you've seen some. What was the most egregious one? One was probably the PJ Carlesimo Latrell Sprewell deal. What's the worst punch or fight? I mean, you go back to, the 70s and 80s in the NBA. There's some pretty wild ones. What's the worst event like this that you've seen in your lifetime?
Well, that would be the Rudy Tomjanovich, Kermit Washington one, like you said, back in the 70s. That was, for anybody who's a little younger, doesn't remember that one. That was bad. I mean, that was bad. Rudy Tomjanovich was kind of a fracas on the court in the NBA, and Rudy Tomjanovich actually wasn't even involved. He's kind of coming in as kind of a peacemaker. And Kermit Washington, who was about 6'9" and strong as an oak, and he just literally cold cocked Tomjanovich, just shattered his face. And I can't remember what the penalty was for that, but that was absolutely felonious assault, and Washington should have done jail time for that, because that was bad. That was the worst one that I've ever seen. And Dave Winfield stomping on the guys in the Michigan Ohio State basketball fracas was bad, but those are generally the worst ones, because the basketball players, they don't have helmets on. I mean, when Myles Garrett took off his helmet and tried to kill Mason Rudolph, that was bad too. I mean, that was.
I was waiting for you to say that one, because that was like literally you could have killed him. I mean, you swing a helmet when you're as strong as Myles Garrett is, and you swing your helmet, that is about as rough as it can possibly get. Because I thought that was for sure the one you were going to say. And
yeah, but he didn't actually hit. If he had actually killed Mason Rudolph on the field or something like that, then that would be it'd be memorable. But it's because it kind of glanced off his head and hit him in the pad. And also, you got to remember, Miles said that Mason called him a name, and so that was kind of his defense. Now he offered that defense about a month after the event, after he'd apologized. And
Yeah.
then he never mentioned that again, and everybody just kind of went on. It's kind of like when you're lying and everybody knows that you're lying, and they just kind of nod their head along with you when you do that. That's kind of what happened with the Miles Garrett thing. That was pretty pathetic. I was waiting for and still waiting for Juwan Howard to play that card today. I think he could still say that somebody called him a name, or he heard something, or he snapped, or something like that. But I'm still predicting that will come up at some point during this entire thing. But we'll see. With Juwan, anything's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna move into the film room. Nevada, this was as you said, this is an ugly incident. They were, they called timeouts, they pressed, nothing that deserves a hand to be thrown, but you can see the moment since, he is losing. He's kind of supposed to be the savior of Michigan basketball. It's not going well. Like, part of me is like, does he want to get tossed? He's got his star player, holding back, which is weird. It's usually the coaches hold the players back. It's not the player holding the coach back. And this guy, I mean, he's kind of a dildo for what he was doing, but it is what it is. But this is the top of it. But yeah, it was a very strange. It honestly was kind of nice because it gave us something to talk about on a Sunday. Because otherwise, we're going to just be talking about like the All-Star game, the dunk contest stuff. No one cares about any of that. So this gave us a little bit of hatred of Michigan, a little bit of kind of a little Big Ten hatred. Because anytime anything happens that's bad for them, it makes me feel good. So this could be right in that category. So with that being said, in your eternal, genius, like, why don't we break down a Michigan play where we score on it, where we do something cool? And I was like, you know what? That's a fantastic idea, Nevada. So we're going to go with the greatest formation in the history of Ohio State football. I know that, I've told you about this one, the most prolific formation in the history of Ohio State, where we legitimately had, we ran this formation one time in our history and we scored a touchdown. So you can't beat that. So here is maybe the weirdest looking formation. Nevada, when you see this formation, I know that it's been a long time since this game actually happened. What are your thoughts when you see, like, who's where? How did you guys come up with this? Like, this looks like something from 1910 maybe. But, like, what's your initial thought when you see a formation like this?
Well, I remember the play vividly, and I just remember how quickly you guys had taken kind of a short huddle. You guys broke really quickly to the line, went up there, and it looked funky, but it was hard to tell who was who. You just know that it looked like a power run to the right. It certainly looked like you had about 9 guys on the right side of the ball. That was for sure. But naturally Tressel had a trick up his sleeve, and it's interesting who that mega tight end was there on the end of the line.
Yeah, it's just, it's funny because, like, the little silly kind of stupid nuances is like with Teddy, we said, show your hands when you come out of your stance, so it looks like you're blocking. Like, see how he kind of put, Teddy wasn't like he gave some effort, but he wasn't like exactly the Heinz Ward of our outfit when it came to blocking. That was more like Hartline and Gonzo and those guys. But he shows his hands coming out of his stance, and after 2 steps, this guy thinks, oh, I'm getting blocked, and this guy takes a step, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh God, like the jet fuel comes out, and he just toasts the guy. And it was like one of those things where there's all kinds of plays that get left on the cutting room floor, and I was like, you never know if this is going to be one of them. So people that don't know, this is as wild as it gets. So we have here we've got Steve Raring, we've got Jake Ballard, we've got Stan White. Here's TJ Downing, the right guard. Here's me. So we're the same. Right guard, right tackle are the same. Left guard's the same. This is Alex Boone at tight end. This is Rory Nickel at like super tight end. And then this is Ted. It's the 3rd tight end on the same side of the line. So it's hilarious when you think, like, how could you come up with a formation like this, like in a staff meeting? Like no one's ever seen anything like this. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a formation like this since, you know, then obviously, you know, you've got Beanie, you've got Troy. So, I mean, literally it's two tight ends, a fullback and a receiver, you know, with the regular personnel. So in the huddle, like if someone's up top keeping track of the personnel, they can't really say, oh, it's, you know, jumbo where there's a 6 offensive lineman, or there's something that would tip them off that it's going to be this wacky formation. But, you know, we did this, we called it like a muddle huddle, where we would huddle like 3 yards from the ball and just sprint right to our spots as fast as possible. Because, you know, we don't, with this play, there's no calls. It's not like you have to say, okay, 45 is the mic, and, you know, and you have to change it because, oh, this blitz is coming. This is just get up and go as fast as possible. Like everybody gap blocks, everybody blocks down and in, holds the ball for about 2 seconds, and, you know, away we go with Teddy. So it was like watching this, you know, and you know, Beanie does a great job. You know, Beanie literally lands right on top of me, and I was like, oh, Bean's all 245 pounds of him. Troy with a great fake, you know, fake handoff, ducks his shoulder. It was funny because, like, I mean, it's like we had so many guys that just sold so much. Like me and TJ just hit the deck like we're trying to get an inch, because we only needed a yard. So everyone's like, oh yeah, of course, Ohio State, you know, the trestle ball, 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense. Of course, we're just gonna, you know, run it right up the middle because that's all we ever do, right? And then we do something like this, and it's just hilarious because like you're like, as soon as I'm telling you, me and TJ in the huddle next to each other, when we got to that 2nd and 1. I was like, oh my God, we're actually going to call it. Or whatever, it might have been through. I'm pretty sure it was 99% sure it was 2nd and 1. I was like, oh my God, we're actually going to call that stupid play. And like, sure as can be, like as soon as it came up, because this is a perfect area of the field to run it, because you're going to get a touchdown. Because I mean, the length of the route's going to be right in the end zone. So it's not like it's going to have to go anywhere. He catches the ball literally in the end zone. But
now Kirk, do you remember the play? What the specific play was called?
You know, I've been digging around in the archives to try to find that, but I feel like it was something like jumbo heavy right plus. I mean, because like jumbo heavy right was like where we'd have like 4 guys to the right of the center. But I can't remember if I don't think we just gave it like a single name. You know, because we had a play later in the game where we ran the Statue of Liberty and it was called Statue. We had a play that we called "Why All Shit," where the tight end would like fake fall down on the ground and then he'd run a drag route, and he was always open. It was like the greatest play of all time for a tight end is "Why All Shit," because he acts like he's down blocking, he falls on the ground and says shit, and then he wides and nobody covers him. Like we ran that in 04 against Michigan. We ran that like 4 or 5 times, and you know we don't throw it to our tight ends ever. So I mean, but every time we ran that play, they got it was a free catch and a free 10 yards basically. But this was like one of those just like special moments where you kind of felt like you felt good about the game. I mean, obviously I didn't feel great about the game until, you know, we got that last first down and the game was over. But, you know, when that play worked, you're just like, okay, you know, we're feeling pretty good. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the flip of it is like when Ted Ginn breaks his leg on the first play of the Florida game, you're like, yeah, this might not be our night. You know, so it's like there's certain like triggers in games that you feel it and you're just like, okay, tonight's going to be a good night, just like the song says. Again, this is another example of empty. You know, we talked a lot about how, you know, our game plan going into this game against Michigan, just based on how they would blitz us, is that we were going to be empty. Like nobody had ever seen us do this before. This is, I mean, if you watch football today, this is like, oh, this is what every snap looks like. It's, you know, empty, 5 wide, you know, maybe a tight end, whatever. But, you know, by doing this, it made Michigan show what they were going to do coverage wise and if they were going to blitz. So here, I mean, the picture's pretty clear. They're not blitzing. You know, there's nobody. They're literally in this picture. There's nobody that can possibly blitz. Like this guy's out in no man's land. You know, they're obviously, you know, they're playing zone. You know, he's dropping into zone. So there's no threat of a blitz. So we just got to block the 4 guys. You know, we pick it up, bang a touchdown to Gonzo. You know, again, like this is just, you know, this is why, you know, as much crap as like Tressel and Bowles take, I'm like, this was genius by them coming into this game, because again, we'd never done this. This is completely out of our core competency, because, you know, we were run 46-47, which is Dave or power, and, you know, grind it out. And, you know, this game we decided to go 5 wide and empty the whole game. So it was like, you know, they probably didn't realize what they were getting into. But and these guys are good. Like, I mean, this is Woodley. I mean, Woodley was Big Ten player of the year. Crable, he was a 3rd round pick. This is Alan Branch. Going into this game, he's a top 5 pick. I think that's Jameson. I mean, David Harris was the captain of the Jets. So I mean, this was a legit defense. So I mean, being able to do this to him was, it was special. This is their nickel look where they've got, Woodley's literally playing 3 technique, which he never did. And they put Crable at the end, just to get some more speed on the field. And they run this little game. And, when you run this, you only got to muck it up for about 2 seconds. And then, the ball's gone because they can't cover, Gonzo. I mean, it's impossible, so it's a touchdown. And, there's our wide receivers coach right now. There's Hart. He's celebrating. But it was just like one of those things. It was a good day. So we'll do one more of these because I never get tired of breaking down these games. I think this might be Pitt to the crib. I think. Yeah, because it was a front side. I had the back, so I kind of had the easy block. Or no, this is this is great. So this is 40. This is a play that we put in this week called 46 delay. So 46 was like the same mundane play that we ran, 50 million times, with guard pulls, down block. It's like literally the first play that you install in football. It's like day one install stuff. So we put in this delay one, or this is the same. He's got a backside cutoff, pull guard. But the difference is here, I delay on this end, and then I come off on the inside linebacker a little quicker. So this is something that like we didn't normally do. Normally I would just be going straight down to the linebacker, but this actually opened up. Like, I mean, this is like a dream. Like, I mean, when you see how we executed this is about perfect, but we'd never blocked it this way before, and to the layman, people that are sitting in, in C deck or lower deck, I mean, you probably have no idea that this play is actually significantly different from what we normally ran. But, again, this is another, Bulls special where it's like literally, I had to time this perfectly because I'm playing right tackle and I'm the one that has the weird block because I'm not, initially just down blocking to him. I'm literally holding this guy for a second for our fullback to kick him out. And then, I have to get off him because Steve's coming here to get him. So, the way it works again is just like, this is one of those nights, it's your night, so, and Pitt had the Jets on and he got to the end zone and, he did the little ball-in technique. So, what'd you think of this one? Again, you're at the game, Nevada, so it's like I can't just talk by myself the whole time. But, what was your thought when we hit this one?
Well, that was a huge play. I mean, it was 28-24, and the game was very much in doubt at that point because we couldn't stop Michigan. They just cut it to 4. If we get stopped here, and, there's no doubt they're coming back and scoring. So this was a huge play. Pittman was one of my all-time underrated players at Ohio State. I don't, when people talk about the great backs at Ohio State, you're never going to talk about Antonio Pittman, but he was one of my favorites. I mean, he had it all. He ran hard. There wasn't a lot of wasted motion. I mean, he went north and south and he went there in a hurry. And this was kind of a classic Antonio Pittman play and, well blocked out and the safety took kind of a bad angle on him and Pittman made him pay.
I'll tell you what, Antonio Pittman is one of the greatest running backs in school history. He'll never have, he didn't go first round. He was a mid-round pick. But, I mean, in terms of a guy who was just an absolute beast and a warrior, Pitt was, I mean, you couldn't get him off the field. And, a strange thing with Pitt is I remember in 04, first couple games, he wasn't getting very many touches. And he was kind of distraught. And I remember I was literally sitting, in the training room, you got these like whirlpools that, we all sit in like before practice to warm up and stuff. And I was shooting the crap with him and man, he was really considering getting out of here and going to Pitt. I mean, he knew, Junko and all those guys at Pitt, all the coaches that were there at the time. And like that conversation, it's weird. And, obviously it didn't end up going anywhere, but, he was frustrated, because he knew Beanie was coming. He knew, what was coming down the pike, Mo Wells. I mean, they're recruiting these like 5-star kids and it's like, it's just tough. I mean, when you feel like you're better than Lydell and Mo Hall and you're not getting the touches and it's just weird. Cause like, I think if the portal, I always wonder about the guys that if the portal would have been available to them in the last 10, 15 years, what guys potentially would have been, like the best that never was at Ohio State, guys like Malik Hooker, guys that we've heard that, they were ready to go, ready to leave, and somehow they stuck it out, or maybe the fact that they would have to sit out and play scout team for a year was something that, they're just like, I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to stick it out and see how it goes. And then they end up having a great prolific career, becoming an NFL draft pick. But, I always wonder about that because the portal, it's like, it's great because these kids have free will and choice now, but it's also bad because these kids there's a lot of kids that make terrible decisions. They transfer out and then all of a sudden nobody wants them, or they're dropping from Ohio State to like a low 1A school or low 1AA school because they think they're a little bit of a hotter commodity than they actually are. But I always wonder about that with Pitt. So to dial this up, this is great. So Rory comes in motion, he gets set, they reset the front to an under front, which again, this is, it feels like you're watching like Stone Age football when you actually see a real underfoot with an inline tight end and a fullback. But, this was, it was different because, normally we would be doubling here, back to here. Me and Rory would be double teaming this guy. And this is a tough load for a tight end to block. So instead we changed it out. We had him come out, block out. I was going to do my normal my little left-right footwork here, kind of post him up. And I was going to leave him for, I believe is that Stan or Deontay? It's Stan. Okay, so Stan White's playing fullback here. So I have to like literally, this is like the ultimate, you got to have trust because he's coming 1,000 miles an hour to kill this guy. So if I hang for like an extra second, I'm going to get smoked, because Stan can't like slow down. So the timing was great on this. TJ's got the tough gig because he's here soloed up. Doug's got a tough gig because he's got a back block all the way back here against a good player. So the guy that TJ does a great job here because that's Branch. I mean, Branch was, again, coming into this game, he was first team All-American, potential top 5 pick. He played, I want to play 13, 14 years in the NFL. He's a really good player, play for the Patriots. So TJ really does a great job on this one. Doug, this back block's probably the hardest block on the whole play. And then Alex has a hinge, and then Steve, he pulls and he gets up on the linebacker. But, this is just, when you see the timing from behind, you're just like, holy cow, it's like a symphony of fat dudes making plays, because, you leave this guy and then I hit, our boy Prescott Burgess, who was rated higher than I was in the 2003 class. But, he was like a 5-star kid from Warren Harding. But I met him on my official visit to Ohio State, and he had a tongue ring in. And as soon as I saw that, I knew that we'd be fine against him because he's an adult male with a tongue ring. So, that's always that's a telltale thing for me when I'm going against a linebacker. If they have a tongue ring, I do not fear them. So I don't know what it is, man. But watching this is just there's like moments of life that are like nirvana, and it's like when again, like I'm old, I'm washed, I'm never playing football again, which is fine. But like when you hit this block and you're me, at this moment, my head is turned back this way, back towards like this is like the closed end of the field. He's sprinting into this is the open end. This is the closed end. So all I can tell by how the play is going is the noise. So if it gets quiet or it's just like a little subtle clap, then you're like, okay, we probably got 7 or 8. But like when you hear the place go insane, like bonkers, then you're like, oh God, he's still going. Then you're me and you're just like, oh God, you turn, you do this little whirl, this little twirl, and you get up and you got this massive humanity. All these guys are on the ground and you're just looking and you're like, well, Woodley's not catching them. None of these guys are catching them. He's getting faster. And you're just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I mean, that's like the greatest feeling in the world, man. I had that with him and Beanie because those guys could get away from guys. And, and there was a song called Ballin'. It was a rap song back in the day. And, it was like this little basketball jump shot thing. So, of course, Pitt did it as a celebration. And he didn't get flagged for it because the referee thought he was literally just pitching him the ball. So, I'm going to hold a few of these because we could go for a long time on this. But because we have the whole game. We have all the games from 05, all the games from 06. We're going to start busting those down for the Scoop fam. What'd you think of that, Nevada? That was pretty fun.
Well, it was fun. Like I said, I hadn't realized, having seen that play, hundreds of times, I hadn't realized what a big block Rearing made on that, how far he came. And, like you said, everything broke just right because he could have got caught up in the wash coming all the way across the line, but it opened up right for him as well. And like you said, you guys timed that just perfectly and, humongous play and to help Michigan have a bad day like Michigan's having a bad day today. So that makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's when those plays don't always work like that. There's a lot of times where it's, it's like watching like a Formula One race or watching something where, it's the timing is just so tight, and then all of a sudden you miss something and it doesn't. You get 2 yards instead of 60 yards, and it's just you're fortunate when that happens, and it was fun. But again, we've got a lot of plays where that came from. It's a long off season, and plus, like I said, if we broke the whole game to them, we'd be here for about 8 hours. Just because it's fun to talk through some of these plays. But I appreciate you, my man. We we got some good content coming. We're gonna get into mat drills tomorrow. What is a mat drill? Why are they significant? What are the drills that they do in a mat drill? Because honestly, before Urban Meyer showed up, I didn't even know what a mat drill was. I knew that Bobby Bowden did them at Florida State, but we'd never done mat drills until Urban showed up in 12. So, to do like the official mat drill. And the funny thing about like with Urban is a lot of the stuff we did in 12 got banned by the NCAA because it was a little too violent. So now it's a whole different type of mat drills. Because back then, man, it was pretty ruthless. But it was our guys lost 7 games, so got to put the screws in them a little bit sometimes. So, but for Nevada, appreciate all you guys in the Scoop family. This has been it's been great to be back in the podcasting game. We're having a blast doing it. We're having a great rest of February, great March, and spring ball's almost here, so we're pumped. So with that, this has been the Scoop World Order. Cool.